Hello everyone, welcome back. Season 11 is getting closer by the week. Year 5 is only months away and will be here in no time at all. The Division 2 recently came to Steam and Ubisoft have a huge opportunity here. I think we are reaching a crossroads and Massive need to deliver. Will Season 4 be the update to bring the Division back into the fray? Drop a like, subscribe, let's talk about what's going on. I think it's safe to assume that at some point all of us have probably wondered how many people are actually playing the Division 2 at any one time. Ubisoft have notoriously kept this kind of information close to their chest. They do it with a lot of their games, and until recently it's always been just speculation. Recently though, the Division 2 came to Steam, and this has meant we can at least get some numbers for the Steam audience. This game is dead. That's a common comment I see on videos and Twitter posts, but these numbers I'm seeing gives a different story, and I'm glad to be able to report that. On this website, SteamDB, we can see how many players are playing the Division 2 right now, the 24-hour peak and the all-time peak. As you can see, there are about 8,000 people playing right now, with an all-time peak of 11,000. This is actually up from a week ago when the game went live on Steam. I think it started off at around 7,000 to 8,000 as its all-time peak, and it's slowly been trending upwards to 11,000 just this past weekend. It would have been actually yesterday, and that trend is a really positive one, really great to see. Now this is not a small number when you consider this is Steam-only players. To put this in perspective, Battlefield 2042, that has about 6,000 players right now. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Ubisoft's latest Assassin's Creed game, whilst it's not what I would consider a live service game, the same way that something like Battlefield 2042 is, or even the Division 2, that has about 4,000 players, so half of what the Division 2 has currently got at the moment. On the flip side, just to play kind of devil's advocate here, Destiny 2 has about 60,000 players. And that's actually a very low number for them. So of course it's not even close when you compare it to something like Destiny 2, which is the giant of looter-shooter games. But for a dead game, the Division 2 has a pretty good Steam audience right now. And I think it's easy to assume these numbers is much greater when you consider console and the other launchers that you can play the game from. I'm pleasantly surprised, and it's been great seeing so much activity around this game in the last week, whether it be random Twitter posts or YouTube videos. With this in mind, Massive and Ubisoft, they have a real big opportunity here. For concurrent players, I think The Division 2 is Ubisoft's second biggest game behind Rainbow Six. I don't know that for sure, I've got no proof of that, but I think it is. There's a real buzz around The Division 2 right now, and aside from some of the horrible PC issues that are still plaguing so many, and actually I believe they've been really bad for Steam players, the majority of comments I've seen have been really positive from both new players and returning players. A lot has changed since day one, so people who were originally playing the game, say on day one, they're coming back and they're realising there is so much more in this game now than there ever was. I can see why a lot of people after year one would have probably dropped the Division 2. If I wasn't covering this game, that might have been something that I did, although part of me thinks I still would have played because I just love this game too much to ever drop it. But I can understand why people left the game. Since then, I think the game's kind of gone from strength to strength, certainly in the last year, and so I think a lot of new players are surprised in a good way. Now, the final season of Year 4 is getting closer, and this will set the tone for Year 5. I think Massive have to give players a reason to stick around for Year 5. With the game now on Steam and this buzz around the game, Massive have to knock this out of the park, and if they do, this could give the Division 2 the bounce back it so desperately needs and I believe deserves. So what do they need to do? I'm not the biggest lore fan, I'm not a huge lore person, I don't think it's overly important in the Division 2 in the grand scheme of things, but it still has to deliver. We could do with a Fei Lao moment in Season 11. A moment where we're all stopped in our tracks and we're not quite sure what we've just seen. We need more Hunter story. Massive need to make sure the story is worth coming back for in year 5. But more importantly, especially for new players or returning players, we need Massive to deliver on the loot and the Manhunt missions and all the gameplay stuff that is really important to players. We know Massive are not changing the seasonal format. Global events, leagues, all of that sort of stuff is going to stay the same with Season 11, which is a shame and certainly goes against them, in my opinion. But soon into the season 11 that is, Massive need to start dropping hints about what we might be able to expect for Year 5. We need Massive to deliver on the Manhunt targets for Season 11. If we are taking back the castle settlement, which is a rumour going around, this needs to be epic. If hunters are part of a Season 11, we need more than just, here's a fighter, not a fighter, although they do fight. Here's a hunter, go fight it. Season 11 needs to lay the groundwork for Year 5 with tidbits of information on what Year 5 is bringing. If Massive can do that, and it is a big if, I do think the Division 2 can really pop off in Year 5. I wonder how many of you were surprised by the numbers that I gave at the start of this video for the Division 2 on Steam. Let me know in the comments down below if you were surprised by the numbers the Division 2 was pulling. Like I said, it did surprise me quite a lot because whenever I've backed the game and said, it's not as dead as what people say, and actually it's not dead at all, people have always referred to me to Twitch numbers and said, well, there's only 600 people watching on Twitch. And I've always said, well, so what? There's normally only 30, 40,000 people watching Final Fantasy on Twitch, but the player base for Twitch is absolutely enormous. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes the Twitch numbers there's some kind of correlation between the actual player base, but I think for the Division 2 that is the case. That isn't the case, and we're seeing it now because the Steam numbers are way, way higher than the Twitch numbers are, and I suspect even if I was to go on Twitch now, the numbers for the Division 2 probably isn't all that high when you consider its competition. Like I said, it's no Destiny 2 when it comes to the numbers, and I don't think it ever will be really, because Destiny 2 is unique in that way. But I think this shows off the Division 2 is not a dead game. And it would go to explain why Ubisoft decided, after Massive stated development for the game had come to an end, might I just add, that's not up to Massive, of course, that's up to Ubisoft. Ubisoft said they would continue to provide resources for further development for the Division 2. And then we have the most recent news, which would suggest even more resources are going to be poured into this game after the report that we have from Ubisoft saying that the Division 2, Rainbow Six, Assassin's Creed, they're kind of the big IPs for Ubisoft, and they're going to be going back to those kind of big IPs, that live service model with those big IPs, rather than, following trends, which is what some of Ubisoft has done for so many years and failed so spectacularly. It makes me happy to know this game, the game that I've been covering for the longest time, actually has a good player base there. I always knew it did, because you don't see channels getting 30, 40, 50k plus views on build videos for a game that has no audience. But we never really had any numbers. I mean, that made sense to me, because, you're not really watching a build video if you're not playing the game, because that wouldn't really make a lot of sense. In my opinion, that makes no sense to watch that video, unless, of course, you just really like the person who makes those videos. I know for a fact that I watch Asmongold a lot, especially when he was playing WoW. I haven't watched him a lot recently, and I've never played WoW in my life, but just because I enjoy him as a character. But that was mainly as a stream rather than a video. I don't think I'd watch a video of his, but I would watch a stream from him. But it just made sense to me that you don't get those kind of numbers, those views, if there's not an audience there. And I think the numbers we're now seeing on Steam reflect that. Because the console audience probably for this game is probably at least double that. There's probably other platforms are at least double that. So, I mean, if I was saying something, I'd probably say there's at least 50,000 people playing the Division 2 at any one time. And that's a pretty big player base, and explains why Ubisoft want to invest in this game and didn't cease development. So, Massive, you have a huge opportunity here. I hope Ubisoft give you all the resources that you need. I know Ubisoft are currently have about 7 jobs for the Division 2 for an office in Romania, I believe it is. So they are recruiting for the Division 2, which just shows that they're pouring more resources into this game, I think it has a bright future. And the game isn't dead. These numbers from Steam prove it's not dead. So I'm still expecting to see those comments down below and on Twitter, and that's cool. But yeah, numbers don't lie. Anyway, guys, that's it. Thanks very much for watching. Until the next one, Epic out.